past decade, the international campaign to abolish nuclear weapons grew from a small organization in Australia to an international coalition of 468 partners in 101 countries, all with the single purpose of achieving a treaty on the prohibition of nuclear weapons to facilitate their total elimination. So Peace Action is one of those partners, and I want to thank the board of Peace Action New York State for enabling me to attend ICAN's second conference on the humanitarian impact of nuclear weapons in Nayarit, Mexico in 2014 when I was the executive director. There I saw firsthand ICAN's strategic determination to change the stalled efforts on nuclear disarmament. And with the hard work and dedication of their campaigners, they succeeded. Today we have that treaty on the prohibition of nuclear weapons. And in recognition of their, and now I quote, work to draw attention to the catastrophic humanitarian consequences of any use of nuclear weapons and for their groundbreaking efforts to achieve a treaty-based prohibition of such weapons, end quote, ICAN has just won the Nobel Peace Prize. So it's my real honor to be up here to introduce two people who played an instrumental part in this movement, my friends, Ray Acheson, Director of Reaching Critical Will and member of ICAN's International Steering Committee, and Tim Wright, the Asia Pacific Director of ICAN, this year's Nobel Peace Prize winner.
First of all, let me congratulate you on your 60th anniversary and 6 decades of taking action for peace and justice. If ever there are time that we need groups like this here in the United States and around the world, it's now. The Nobel Peace Prize, of course, is an enormous honour, and it's a tribute to all of us who have, around the world, contributed to this struggle against the worst weapons of mass destruction. And in particular, it's a tribute to the survivors of Hiroshima and Nagasaki and of nuclear testing around the world who have shared their testimonies as part of our campaign to achieve a global prohibition on these weapons. Of course, it comes at a time of incredible global tension when fiery rhetoric could all too easily lead us inexorably to unspeakable horror. And the Nobel Peace Committee, of course, is sending a clear message that there is an alternative to a world armed to the brink with nuclear weapons, that we need to act now to avert catastrophe. And we can't keep these weapons in perpetuity without their ever being used again. It was a little over 10 years ago that we founded ICAN in Australia. It was just a small group of people around a table with a bold vision to unite diverse organisations around the world in this common struggle for a nuclear weapon-free future. And we had been greatly inspired by the tremendous success of the international campaign to ban landmines, which in a few that campaign, within a short period of time, managed to galvanise global support for the Mine Ban Treaty. Of course, other indiscriminate weapons, including chemical weapons, biological weapons, and cluster munitions, have long been prohibited. But now we can also say, at long last, that nuclear weapons are prohibited under international law. We've really worked over the past decade to try to reframe the debate on nuclear weapons to focus on what these weapons do to people and the environment rather than abstract concepts of geostrategic stability and this kind of idea that these are merely instruments of power or instruments of political prestige. These are weapons that are capable of killing hundreds of thousands, indeed millions of people in an instant. We need to use this treaty. It's a remarkable tool that we now have at our disposal in nuclear-armed states and in nuclear-free states to demand a nuclear weapon-free future. And I want to thank all of those here in this room who have been part of this struggle to achieve the treaty and the broader struggle over the past 72 years to eliminate the worst weapons of mass destruction. This year's Nobel Peace Prize is a prize for us all. Thanks.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks, Alicia, for introducing us. Thanks to Peace Action for inviting us here as ICAN. We banned the bomb. And in banning the bomb, we are very actively smashing the patriarchy. We were told that we were irrational. We were told that we were irresponsible, and we were told even that we were emotional to want to ban nuclear weapons. We were told that we need nuclear weapons to defend our people or to defend our families. But nuclear weapons don't defend anybody except for a tiny elite of warmongering egomaniacs who believe they have the right to slaughter millions of civilians. Nuclear weapons don't defend anybody except for those who profit from their production, making money off of the threat of genocide. Nuclear weapons are militarism. Nuclear weapons are racism. Nuclear weapons are capitalism, and nuclear weapons certainly are patriarchy. And we are smashing them. The treaty that ICAN campaigned for relentlessly in the face of great opposition from many different quarters, the treaty that 122 governments have stood up for in defiance of the nuclear-armed states, is a piece of law, it is a piece of art, it is a piece of heart, and it is a piece of courage. It is our treaty, and we are going to use it. Every time that Trump says nuclear war, we are going to say nuclear ban. Every time we hear about more investments in nuclear weapons, we are going to say divestment from nuclear weapons. We have the law on our side. We have the support of the vast majority of the world on our side. We have the passion, and we have the courage, and we have the activists. We have nuns going around the United States right now delivering copies of the treaty to missile bases. We have Germans and Norwegians and Canadians working on cracking those states in NATO to end their addiction to nuclear weapons. We have the Japanese campaigners hammering the government's lack of support for this treaty, and we have the Australians cracking on their government. We already have Latin America and Africa and a lot of the Middle East and a lot of Southeast Asia, and we will have more. We will have the rest because we are on the right side of history, because we did this together, and this is what happens when you have courage to stand up to power. Thank you very much.